Daniel Whitmore hadn't slept through the night in over 2 years. Not since his wife passed. Not since the silence in their Fifth Avenue penthouse grew so loud it drowned out everything else, including the soft, uncertain sounds his daughter, Lily, sometimes made when she was trying to tell him something. Lily was 8 years old, bright-eyed and mostly nonverbal. She lived in a world of patterns, textures, and sounds that most people didn't notice, but that could overwhelm her in seconds. Bright lights made her flinch. Sudden noises sent her curling into herself like a leaf in dry wind. She hadn't spoken a full sentence since she was 4, but she understood far more than people gave her credit for. Daniel knew that. He just didn't know how to reach her anymore. He'd hired 6 nannies in the past 18 months. Each one came with glowing references, fancy degrees, and matching designer handbags. Each one lasted less than 3 weeks. Some got frustrated when Lily wouldn't make eye contact. Others treated her like a puzzle to be solved, not a child to be loved. One even suggested sending her to a specialized boarding facility. Daniel had shown her the door before she finished her sentence. Now, standing in his sunlit living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, he rubbed his temples and stared at the resume in his hand. It wasn't glossy. It wasn't filled with Ivy League names. In fact, it looked like it had been printed at a local library, but it came from someone he trusted, his late wife's therapist, Dr. Lynn. "She's not like the others," Dr. Lynn had said over the phone. "She sees children, not diagnoses." The doorbell rang. Daniel smoothed his shirt, something he hadn't done for a visitor in months, and opened the door. She stood there in a simple navy dress, canvas tote slung over her shoulder, hair pulled back in a neat bun. No perfume, no nervous smile, just calm eyes that met his without flinching. She didn't look like she belonged in his world of marble floors and abstract art. But she didn't look out of place either. She just was. "Good morning," she said, voice steady. "I'm here for the position." He nodded, stepping aside. "Come in." She walked in slowly, taking in the space, not with awe, but with quiet observation. Her eyes lingered on the sharp corners of the coffee table, the echo of footsteps on hardwood, the way the morning sun hit the white walls like a spotlight. Then her gaze landed on Lily, who was sitting on the rug in the corner, lining up colored blocks with intense focus. Without a word, the woman set her bag down and walked over. Not too close, not too fast. She sat cross-legged a few feet away and pulled out a small, soft-looking fidget toy from her tote. She didn't speak, didn't reach out. Just placed the toy gently on the floor between them and waited. Lily paused. Her fingers hovered over a red block. She glanced sideways, at the toy, then at the woman. A beat passed, then another. Slowly, Lily reached out, picked up the fidget, and gave it a gentle squeeze. A soft click-click sound filled the quiet room. The woman smiled, just a little, and nodded. Daniel watched, stunned. Lily hadn't touched a new object from a stranger in over a year. They stayed like that for 10 minutes. No talking, just quiet presence. Then the woman stood, brushed off her dress, and turned to Daniel. "She's doing great," she said simply. "She just needs to feel safe." He didn't know what to say. "Most people say she needs to improve or catch up." "She's not behind," the woman replied gently. "She's on her own path. My job isn't to change that. It's to walk beside her." Something in Daniel's chest loosened, just a little. He hired her on the spot. Her name was Maya. She didn't ask for a fancy contract or a private room. She asked for 3 things. A quiet corner in the house where Lily could retreat if overwhelmed, permission to adjust lighting and noise levels as needed, and 1 afternoon off each week to visit her mother in the Bronx. Daniel agreed to all of it. The first few days were quiet. Maya didn't try to fill the silence with chatter. She followed Lily's lead, sometimes sitting beside her for hours as she sorted buttons by size, other times joining her in rhythmic clapping games that seemed to calm her nervous system. She brought in soft blankets, dimmed the overhead lights, and played gentle instrumental music in the background. She never forced eye contact, never raised her voice, never acted like Lily's differences were problems to fix. One evening, Daniel came home late from a board meeting to find Lily sitting at the kitchen table, tapping a spoon against a glass over and over, lost in the rhythm. Normally, he would have asked her to stop, but Maya was there, sitting across from her, tapping a second spoon in harmony, not matching her exactly, just echoing like a quiet conversation. He stood in the doorway watching. Then, something happened. Lily looked up. Not at the ceiling, not at the wall, but directly at Maya, and she smiled. A real, soft, crinkled eye smile. Maya smiled back, eyes glistening. "Hey there," she whispered. Lily reached out and touched Maya's hand. Daniel's throat tightened. He hadn't seen that smile since before his wife got sick. Later that night, he found Maya washing dishes in the kitchen. "How did you do that?" he asked, leaning against the counter. She didn't turn around right away. "Do what?" "Get her to connect like that." Maya turned off the faucet and dried her hands. "I didn't get her to do anything. I just showed up consistently, patiently, without expecting anything back." He frowned. "But you must have done something different." She looked at him, really looked at him, like she saw the exhaustion, the guilt, the fear he carried every day. "You love her," she said softly. "That's the most important thing. But love isn't always enough when you don't know how to speak her language. I'm just helping you both learn it together." Daniel didn't have a response. He just nodded, feeling something shift inside him. Like a door he didn't know was closed had cracked open. Over the next week, small changes bloomed. Lily started using her communication device more, not because she was pushed, but because Maya made it feel like play. She began accepting new foods as long as they were presented in a certain way. One morning, she even walked over to Daniel and placed his coffee mug in his hand, something she hadn't done since she was 5. He caught Maya watching from the hallway. Arms crossed, a quiet pride in her eyes. "You're good with her," he said. "She's good with me," Maya corrected gently. "We're figuring it out step by step." Daniel realized then that he'd been waiting for a miracle, a breakthrough, a cure, a sign that things could go back to how they were. But maybe healing didn't look like going backward. Maybe it looked like this: a quiet kitchen, a shared smile, a woman who saw his daughter not as broken but as whole. And maybe, just maybe, that same woman was starting to see him, not as a billionaire, not as a grieving widower, but as a father trying his best. He didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he could breathe. Weeks passed, and the house began to feel different, not just quieter, but softer, like someone had turned down the harsh edges of the world just for Lily. The woman, Maya, didn't make a show of it. She didn't rearrange furniture dramatically or hand out new rules. She just adjusted things. A lamp replaced the glaring overhead light in the playroom. A thick rug appeared under Lily's favorite reading nook. Classical guitar music played low in the background during meals, smoothing out the clatter of dishes. Daniel noticed it all. He noticed how Lily no longer covered her ears when the dishwasher ran, how she started humming along to the music, sometimes even swaying a little in her seat. He noticed how Maya never rushed her, never said, "Hurry up," or "We don't have all day." Instead, she'd sit beside her, hands folded, waiting as long as it took for Lily to finish lining up her toy animals in perfect order before bedtime. One rainy Tuesday, Daniel came home early. He'd canceled a meeting, something he hadn't done in years, and found the two of them in the living room. Lily was lying on her stomach, drawing spirals in a sketchbook with a purple crayon. Maya sat cross-legged nearby, mending a tear in one of Lily's favorite stuffed rabbits with careful stitches. He stood in the doorway watching. Rain tapped gently against the windows. The only other sound was the soft scratch of crayon on paper. Then Lily stopped drawing. She looked up at Maya, pointed to the window, and made a small worried sound in her throat. Maya set down the rabbit. "Thunder coming?" she asked softly. Lily nodded fast, fingers twisting in the hem of her shirt. Maya didn't dismiss it. Didn't say, "It's just noise." Instead, she moved closer, pulled a weighted blanket from the nearby shelf and draped it gently over Lily's shoulders. Then she sat beside her, back against the couch, and started humming. A low, steady tune with no words, just warmth in the sound. Lily leaned into her, eyes closing. Daniel's chest ached. He remembered nights when storms would send Lily into full panic, screaming, hiding under beds, trembling for hours. He'd tried everything: white noise machines, earplugs, even sleeping pills, which he regretted instantly. Nothing worked. But here, in this quiet moment, Maya had calmed her with nothing but presence and a song. He stepped forward quietly. Maya looked up, surprised, but didn't stop humming. He sat on the floor across from them, not too close. "Just there." The thunder rumbled again, louder this time. Lily flinched but didn't pull away. Instead, she reached out and took Maya's hand. Maya kept humming. Daniel watched the rain slide down the glass. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he had to fix anything. He just sat, breathing, letting the quiet hold them all together. After the storm passed, Lily drifted off for a nap under the blanket. Maya carefully tucked the stuffed rabbit beside her and stood, stretching her back. "You didn't have to stay," she said to Daniel. Voice low. "I wanted to," he replied. She nodded, heading toward the kitchen. He followed. She filled the kettle, set it on the stove. "You've been coming home earlier lately?" "Yeah," he said. "Turns out I don't need to be in every meeting." She gave a small smile. "Good." He leaned against the counter. "How do you know what to do?" "With her, I mean." Maya poured hot water into 2 mugs, added tea bags. "It's not about knowing. It's about listening. Not with your ears, though that helps, but with your whole self. Her body tells you everything if you pay attention." He took the mug she offered. "I used to think if I just tried harder, read more books, hired better experts, I could fix this." Maya's expression softened. "There's nothing to fix. She's not broken, Daniel. She's just wired differently. Like a piano tuned to a different key. You don't throw it out. You learn to play the music it makes." He stared into his tea. "I miss my wife," he said suddenly, the words surprising even him. "She always knew how to reach Lily. I feel like I've lost them both." Maya didn't offer empty comfort. She just said, "You haven't lost her. You're still her father, and she still knows you love her, even when you don't know how to show it right." He looked up. Her eyes held no pity, just quiet understanding. That night, over dinner, Lily eating mashed sweet potatoes with focused concentration, Daniel asked Maya about herself. Not her resume, not her qualifications, but real things. Where she grew up. What made her want to work with kids like Lily? What she did on her days off. She told him about her childhood in the Bronx. About her younger brother who also had sensory sensitivities. About how her mother taught her that patience wasn't passive, it was an act of love. She spoke without bitterness, without performance. Just truth, plain and warm. He found himself talking, too, about his wife's laugh. About the first time he held Lily as a newborn. About how lost he felt now that the person who understood both of them was gone. Lily, halfway through her meal, looked up from her plate. She reached across the table and placed her small hand over Daniel's. He froze. Then slowly, gently, turned his hand palm up and let her fingers rest in his. Maya watched, silent, but her eyes shone. Later, as he walked her to the door, she lived nearby, took the subway home. Daniel said, "You don't have to leave so early every day. You could stay for dinner more often. If you want." She paused on the threshold. "I'm here for Lily," she said carefully. "Not to be part of your family." "I know," he said. "But maybe we could be friends." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Friends," she agreed. The next week, things shifted again, not in big ways, but in the kind that matter. Daniel started joining them for breakfast. He learned to wait while Lily tapped her spoon 3 times before eating. He stopped correcting her when she lined up her shoes by color instead of pair. He even tried humming that same tune Maya used during storms, badly, off-key, but Lily giggled, a rare, bubbling sound that made his heart leap. One afternoon, he found Maya teaching Lily how to braid strips of fabric. Their heads were close together, fingers moving slowly in sync. Sunlight streamed through the window, catching the dust in the air like tiny stars. He didn't interrupt, just watched. Later, Maya said, "She's starting to trust you more." "How can you tell?" "She looks at you now. Not just past you, at you." He hadn't even realized he'd stopped expecting that. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Daniel sat alone in the dim living room. He pulled out his phone and deleted an email draft he'd been working on, a proposal to sell his company's AI division. He'd been planning to step back for months but kept delaying, telling himself the business needed him. Now he wondered who really needed him. The answer was clear. He texted his assistant. "Cancel all non-essential meetings for the next 2 weeks. I'm taking time with Lily." Then he walked to the window and looked out at the city lights, feeling something he hadn't in years. Not success, not control, but peace, and somewhere in that peace, a quiet hope began to grow, not just for Lily, but for himself. And maybe, just maybe for something more with the woman who had walked into his life like a gentle rain after a long drought. The first real test came on a Saturday morning when Daniel's mother arrived unannounced. She swept into the penthouse in a tailored cream suit, heels clicking like metronomes against the marble floor. Her perfume filled the hallway before she even stepped inside. She kissed Daniel on both cheeks, then turned her sharp eyes toward the living room, where Maya was helping Lily sort puzzle pieces by shape, both of them barefoot on the rug. "Oh," his mother said, voice cool. "You kept her." Daniel stiffened. "Maya's been incredible with Lily." His mother gave a tight smile. "Of course. It's admirable, hiring someone so dedicated." She said dedicated like it meant cheap or temporary. Then she walked past them without a word to Maya, as if she were part of the furniture. Maya didn't flinch. She just kept her focus on Lily, who had tensed at the sudden noise and movement. "It's okay," Maya murmured, placing a soft hand on Lily's back. "We're safe." Later, over tea in the formal dining room, his mother insisted on using the good china. She leaned in. "Darling, I understand you're grateful, but you must be careful. People talk. A man in your position, alone with a young woman from, well, you know." She waved a hand vaguely as if geography explained everything. Daniel set his cup down hard. "She's Lily's caregiver." "That's all? Is it?" His mother raised an eyebrow. "Because I've seen the way you look at her, and frankly, it's unwise. For everyone involved." He didn't answer, but the words stuck in his mind like burrs. That evening, after his mother left, Daniel found Maya in the kitchen washing dishes. He stood in the doorway, unsure what to say. "She didn't say hello," he finally offered. Maya didn't turn around. "Some people don't see me. Only what they think I am." "I see you," he said, more firmly than he intended. She turned off the faucet and dried her hands slowly. "Good, but seeing isn't enough if you don't act on it." He didn't know how to respond to that, so he didn't. A few days later, Daniel was asked to speak at a major charity gala for autism awareness. His company sponsored the event, and his late wife had been deeply involved. He'd always sent a representative before, but this year, something made him say yes. He spent days rehearsing a polished speech written by his PR team, full of statistics, funding goals, and vague promises. But the night before the event, he sat alone in his study, reading it over, and felt hollow. It sounded like a press release, not a father's truth. He thought of Maya humming in the storm, of Lily's hand in his, of how real healing wasn't about fixing, but about showing up. So he threw the script away. At the gala, under glittering chandeliers and watchful eyes, Daniel stepped to the podium. He didn't mention his company, didn't quote studies. Instead, he talked about his daughter, the way she notices the way raindrops race down windows, how she laughs when wind chimes sing, how she taught him that love doesn't need words to be deep. And then he said something that made the room go still. "I used to think I had to save her, but the truth is she's saving me. And she's not doing it alone. There's someone in our home, someone kind, patient, and wise, who sees my daughter not as a problem, but as a person. She doesn't try to change Lily. She helps her shine as she is, and because of her, I'm learning to be the father my daughter deserves." He didn't say her name, but everyone who knew them knew who he meant. The room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. Back home, Maya was waiting with Lily, who was already in pajamas, playing with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. "You were on the news," Maya said quietly, not looking at him. "I meant every word," he replied. She finally met his eyes. "You shouldn't have done that." "Why not?" "Because now it's not just about Lily, it's about us. And people will talk. They'll assume things. They'll question my intentions, your judgment. Everything." He stepped closer. "Let them talk. What I said was true." She shook her head. "Truth isn't always safe, Daniel. Especially when the world sees a black woman in a rich white man's house and jumps to conclusions." He hadn't thought of it that way. Shame prickled his skin. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you in that position." "I know," she said softly. "But good intentions don't erase consequences." They stood in silence for a long moment. Lily, sensing the shift, looked between them, her brow furrowed. Then Maya knelt beside her. "Time for bed, sweetheart." As she helped Lily upstairs, Daniel followed, lingering in the hallway. He watched through the doorway as Maya tucked the blanket around Lily's shoulders, brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, and whispered something that made Lily smile. When Maya came back down, he was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. "I want to do better," he said. She stopped on the third step. "Better how?" "By listening. By seeing the whole picture, not just what I want to see." She studied him. "That's a start." He took a breath. I care about you, Maya. Not just because of Lily, because of who you are." Her expression didn't change, but her eyes softened. "I care about you too. But caring isn't enough when the ground beneath us is uneven." "I know," he said. "But I'm willing to level it." She gave a small, sad smile. "It's not that simple." "I know that too." They stood there, the space between them charged with something real and fragile, like a bird resting on an open hand, ready to fly if startled. Finally, Maya stepped down. "I need to go home." He walked her to the door again. This time the city lights glittered like scattered stars below. "Will you come back tomorrow?" he asked. She hesitated. "For Lily. Always for Lily." He nodded. "That's enough." But as she walked away, disappearing into the warm glow of the elevator, he knew it wasn't enough. Not for him. And maybe, just maybe, not for her either. The next morning, Maya returned right on time. She didn't mention the speech. Didn't bring up his mother. She just greeted Lily with her usual calm warmth and got to work. But something had shifted. Not between her and Lily, but between her and Daniel. There was a new awareness, a quiet tension, like two people standing at the edge of a bridge, unsure if they should cross together. At lunch, Lily used her communication device to say, "Maya, stay." Daniel looked up, surprised. Lily rarely made requests. Maya smiled. "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. Later." As Daniel cleared the table, he caught Maya watching him. Not with suspicion, but with something like hope, carefully guarded. And in that look, he saw a future he hadn't dared imagine. Not just a healed daughter, but a life built on respect, honesty, and something deeper than gratitude. But he also knew it wouldn't be easy. The world wasn't kind to stories like theirs. Still, for the first time, he was willing to try, not as a billionaire, not as a boss, but as a man who finally understood that love meant more than power. It meant protection. It meant listening. It meant standing beside someone, not above them. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to begin. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Bright sun, clear sky, the kind of day that feels safe. Lily had been doing so well. She'd started using her communication device more, even stringing together short sentences like "want park" or "more music." Daniel had enrolled her in a small, inclusive after-school program recommended by Maya, one with trained staff, soft lighting, and quiet spaces. He thought it was the right step, but the world doesn't always bend to good intentions. During a group activity, someone turned on a loudspeaker for a surprise birthday song. The sudden blast of noise, cheerful to most, was like a physical blow to Lily. She covered her ears, dropped to her knees, and bolted. By the time staff realized she was gone, she'd already slipped out the back gate. Daniel got the call while in a meeting. His blood turned to ice. He was in the car before the school administrator finished her sentence. Maya was already there when he arrived, having left her errands the moment she heard. She didn't panic, didn't cry. She just started walking, calm, focused, scanning every bench, every shadow, every patch of green in the nearby park. Where would she go? Daniel asked, voice raw. Somewhere quiet, somewhere familiar, Maya said. She knows Central Park. She's been here with us. They split up. Daniel ran, heart hammering, calling Lily's name until his voice cracked. He checked playgrounds, restrooms, even duck ponds. Every empty swing, every closed path felt like a failure. Hours passed. Police arrived. Volunteers joined the search. Still nothing. Night fell. The temperature dropped. Daniel sat on a park bench, head in his hands, shaking. He'd failed her. Again. Then, just past midnight, Maya found her, under a wooden bench near the old boathouse, curled into a tight ball, knees to chest, clutching a smooth gray stone Maya had given her weeks ago during a walk. Lily's clothes were damp from dew, her face streaked with dirt and dried tears. But she was safe. Maya didn't rush her, didn't pull her up. She just sat on the ground beside her, wrapped her own coat around Lily's shoulders, and began to hum that same gentle tune, the one from the thunderstorm. Slowly, Lily uncurled. She looked at Maya, eyes wide with fear and exhaustion, and reached out. Maya held her close, whispering, "You're okay. I've got you." When Daniel arrived, breathless, he saw them like that. Two figures in the dim park light holding on like the world had tried to tear them apart and failed. He dropped to his knees. "Lily?" She looked at him, but didn't move toward him. "Not yet." Maya met his eyes over Lily's head. "She's scared. Give her time." He nodded, tears spilling over. He stayed where he was, just watching, just being there. Back at the penthouse, Lily fell into a deep sleep almost immediately, the stone still clutched in her hand. Daniel paced the hallway, guilt eating at him like fire. Maya found him near the window, staring out at the dark city. "I should have known better," he said, voice breaking. "I pushed her too fast. I wanted her to be normal, to fit in. And I almost lost her." Maya leaned against the wall beside him. "You didn't lose her, and you didn't push her. You were trying to give her a chance. That's not wrong, but it was too much. Maybe. But you can't protect her from every hard thing. What matters is what you do after." He turned to her, eyes red. "I don't know how to do this, Maya. I'm so tired of getting it wrong." She didn't offer empty comfort. Instead, she said, "You're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry this by yourself." Something in him cracked open. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands, and for the first time since his wife died, he let himself cry. Not the stiff, silent tears of grief, but deep, shuddering sobs of fear, regret, and relief. Maya sat beside him. Didn't touch him. Didn't speak. Just stayed. When the storm inside him passed, he looked up. "How do you stay so strong?" "I'm not strong," she said quietly. "I just know that love means showing up even when you're scared. Even when you mess up," he swallowed. I think I'm falling for you." The words hung in the air, heavy and honest. Maya didn't look away. "I know. You do? I've seen it in the way you watch me with Lily. In how you listen now. In how you changed your whole life just to be present." She paused. "But feelings aren't enough, Daniel. Not with everything between us, money, race, power. People will assume the worst, and Lily, she needs stability more than romance." "I'm not asking for romance," he said. "I'm asking for a chance to be real. To build something honest with you, with her, no titles. No roles, just us." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I care about you too. More than I meant to. But I need to know you're not just grateful. I need to know you see me. Not as your daughter's savior, but as a woman with her own dreams, her own life." "I do," he said. "I see you." She studied his face, searching for truth. "And maybe, just maybe, finding it. I need time," she said finally. "To think, to pray. To make sure this isn't just a moment of crisis talking." He nodded. "Take all the time you need." The next morning Maya came back, not because she had to, but because she chose to. She helped Lily wash her face, made her favorite oatmeal, and sat with her while she slowly reconnected with the world. Daniel stayed nearby, giving space but staying present. He didn't push, didn't hover, just existed in the same room, steady as a heartbeat. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Maya packed her tote bag to leave. Daniel walked her to the door. "Thank you," he said. "For everything." She paused. "Don't thank me. Just keep showing up for her and for yourself," he nodded. "I will." As she stepped into the hallway, she turned back. "One more thing, yes? If we ever try this, really try, it has to be equal. No penthouse privileges, no favors. Just two people choosing each other day after day." He met her gaze. "That's all I want." She gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. Then she was gone. Daniel closed the door slowly. The house felt different, not empty, but full of possibility. He walked to Lily's room, peeked in. She was sleeping peacefully, the gray stone resting on her nightstand like a promise. He went to his study and opened his laptop. He began drafting an email, not to his board, but to a team of child development specialists, occupational therapists, and inclusive educators. He wanted to build a support system for Lily that didn't rely on one person. That honored Maya's work but didn't trap her in it. Because real love wasn't about dependence. It was about freedom, to grow, to choose, to be seen. And for the first time, he believed they all deserved that chance. 6 months had passed since that night in the park. The penthouse was gone, sold not out of loss but by choice. In its place was a quieter home in a tree-lined neighborhood, with wide windows, soft rugs, and a backyard where birds sang louder than traffic. There were no marble floors, no abstract sculptures worth more than a car. Just warmth, just space to breathe. Daniel had stepped down as CEO. He still owned the company, but he'd handed day-to-day leadership to someone else. He spent his mornings walking Lily to her new school, a small, inclusive place where teachers knew her name, her needs, and her favorite color, purple, always purple. He came home in time for lunch. He learned to cook simple meals. He even started gardening, though he killed the first 3 basil plants. Maya still came every day, but not as a nanny anymore. Officially, she was Lily's learning support coordinator, part of a small team Daniel had carefully built. A speech therapist who used play, not pressure, an occupational therapist who turned sensory work into games, and Maya, who guided them all with quiet wisdom. She had her own office now, her own hours, her own voice at the table when they planned Lily's care. But something else had changed too. One evening, after Lily was in bed, Daniel found Maya on the back porch, wrapped in a sweater, watching fireflies blink in the dusk. He sat beside her, handing her a mug of chamomile tea, her favorite. She used her device to say, "I love you today," he said, voice thick with pride. Maya smiled. "To you?" "To both of us." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the kind that only comes after storms have passed. "You know," Daniel said slowly, "I used to think love was something you gave, like a gift or a rescue. But you showed me it's something you build. Brick by brick." Maya looked at him. "We built it together." He reached for her hand. This time she didn't pull away. It hadn't been easy. There were still awkward questions at school events. Strangers who assumed she was just the help. Old friends who didn't understand why he'd given up everything for a woman they didn't see as his equal. And Maya had her own doubts. Fears that this was too good to last, that one day he'd wake up and realize he missed his old life. But every time doubt crept in, something small would remind them they were on the right path. Like the day Lily drew a picture of 3 stick figures under a rainbow, one tall with dark skin, one tall with light skin, and one small with purple shoes. She handed it to Maya with a determined tap on her communication device. "My family." Or the morning Daniel showed up at Maya's mother's apartment with groceries and stayed to help fix a leaky faucet. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to know the woman who raised the woman he loved. Or the quiet Sunday afternoons when they'd all sit on the floor, listening to Lily hum along to guitar music, her fingers tapping rhythms only she understood, and no one tried to correct her. Now, as fireflies danced above the grass, Daniel turned to Maya. "Lily's birthday is next week." "I know," she said softly. She's been counting down on her calendar. "I've been thinking, what if we do something simple? Just us, maybe a picnic in the park? Her favorite sandwiches, her favorite blanket." Maya nodded. "She'd like that." He hesitated. "And I was wondering if you'd stay after. Not just for the day, but for good." She looked at him, eyes searching his face. "You mean move in?" "I mean build a life together. Not because you work for me. Not because of Lily, though she's part of it. But because we choose each other. Every day." Maya didn't answer right away. She looked out at the yard where Lily's swing hung still in the evening air. "I used to think I could never have this," she said quietly. "A love that sees me. A home that welcomes me. A child who calls me hers." "You can," he said. "You do." She turned back to him, tears glistening but not falling. "Okay," she whispered. "Yes." The word hung between them, full of promise. Lily's birthday arrived on a soft spring morning. Sunlight filtered through the trees as they spread their picnic blanket near the duck pond, the same park where she'd once been lost, now a place of joy. There were purple cupcakes, lemonade in mason jars, and a small cake shaped like a piano, Lily's newest obsession. Lily wore a dress with tiny stars and kept glancing between Daniel and Maya, as if making sure they were both there. After cake, she disappeared inside the house for a moment. When she returned, she held a handmade card. She walked straight to Maya, placed it in her hands, then turned to Daniel and did the same. Inside Maya's card was a drawing of the 3 of them holding hands. Below it, typed on her communication device and carefully glued onto the paper, were 3 words: "My Maya, my daddy, happy." Maya covered her mouth, tears finally spilling over. Daniel pulled them both into a hug. Lily stiff at first, then slowly melting into it, her small arms wrapping around them both. Later, as they packed up the picnic, Lily ran ahead to chase a butterfly. Daniel took Maya's hand. "No grand gestures," he said. "No speeches. Just this. Just this is enough," she replied. And it was. In the months that followed, their life wasn't perfect. Lily still had hard days. Daniel still made mistakes. Maya still had to remind him gently that equality meant listening, not just providing. But they kept choosing each other. Through school meetings, late-night worries, Sunday pancakes, and quiet walks home. One evening, as they sat on the porch again, Lily asleep inside, Maya leaned her head on Daniel's shoulder. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "The old life?" He thought about it. "I miss the ease of it. The certainty, but not the loneliness. Not the feeling that I was failing the two people I loved most." He squeezed her hand. "This is better. Messy, real, and ours," she smiled. "Ours." Inside, Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring something soft. They both stood moving quietly toward the house. Not as employer and employee, not as savior and saved, but as partners. As parents. As people who had found each other not in spite of their differences, but because of them. And in that ordinary, beautiful life, they discovered something rare. Love that didn't demand perfection but celebrated presence. Love that grew not in grand moments but in the quiet spaces between, where a hummed lullaby, a shared glance, or a child's hand reaching for both of theirs said everything that needed to be said.